Eric DeGatti here from One Human Performance, and today what we're going to talk about is how to take care of your own soft tissue, which takes a beating from either activity or lack of activity, and how do we manage that? Now, there's a lot of great tools out there that we can use, not the least of which is a trained and skilled hands-on manual therapist. Now, if you don't have access to one or don't have the ability to go see one on a regular basis, I still highly encourage that, but how do we support that on our own, and how do we do that on a budget? Now, there's lots of great tools out there. If you haven't checked out the folks at AccuMobility, I highly recommend them. Eric Cressy does an awesome series on just how to use those tools on getting some soft tissue work yourself on your neck. There's also great tools from what the Trigger Point people are doing. I love the stuff that they have. And if you haven't checked out Kelly Starrett's mobility wad, you know I'm a big fan, you have to check that out. But today what we're going to talk about is how you can kind of ball out on a budget. Now, there's lots of different things that you can use. The most ubiquitous tool is the good old foam roller. Now, the foam roller's been around for a while, and there's lots of different styles and types that you can get. My personal favorite is this one that Perform Better makes. It is their 1 foot long by 6 inch round roller. Use the black ones. They will hold up much longer, especially if you're using this with bigger athletes like I do. The old rollers would get smushed like a pancake, and I'd have to replace them every week. These will hold up for quite a while, and then other than getting chewed up a little bit on the ends, you can get a lot of value for this for just under 10 bucks. I also want to introduce some other tools that you can use, especially if you're on the road and you don't have the ability to carry a roller with you. So the first one, and your best friend, could be just one of these, a tennis ball. Now, I'll be honest, I can count the number of times I've played tennis in my life on one hand, but I can't count how many times I've used one of these. These can get into a lot of spaces that you cannot get with a foam roller, not the least of which is the hip flexor and psoas, because that is right up inside your ilium of your hip bone, and it's tough to get in there. You're not going to get in there with a roller. So this is one of the areas that I'll use this. This also works great along the border of your scapula, right along your shoulder blade. It works great in the posterior shoulder, getting in here. There's lots of areas that we can get to. Also, another great area is getting along the hips and waistband. So a tennis ball could be your best friend, and if you're really cheap like me, you wait until your clients who play tennis are done with their tennis balls, because instead of throwing them away, they'll give them to you for nothing. Now, if you want to up your game with a Trigger Point ball, here's a great thing that I found, and you find them at Five Below. That means it's under $5. It's this little spiky ball. It's going to be a little bit more intense than a tennis ball, and areas like the area I just talked about along your waistband, from your SI joint, right where your low back meets your hip, all the way along your waistband to out here, is an area that gets pretty jacked up and is pretty important for rotation as well as the function of your SI joint. So this is a great tool for you to use. It's a little bit more aggressive than the tennis ball, so use it carefully, but this is something you can find at Five Below, and it's a great deal. Okay, next on our list of balls that you can use to help with your soft tissue work is one of these, a golf ball. Now, this is real aggressive for most areas except for one that I like to use this on, is at the bottom of your foot. If you haven't checked out some of Dr. Emily Speichel's work on the importance of the foot and how that gets beat up and all along your plantar fascia, and anybody who's ever had plantar fasciitis knows how painful that can be. So by getting something as simple as a golf ball, what you can do is roll your foot over this. When you find that tender spot, just go back and forth about 20 or 30 times, about a 1 inch area, and then this will do a whole lot to kind of tenderize that and get good pliability within the foot, as well as wake up some of those proprioceptors within there. Next on our list, you go get 2 tennis balls and a roll of athletic tape, okay? And again, that's going to cost you under $2 to $3, and what you can make is a peanut. Now, the peanuts, they also sell these from a couple different companies. I just take 2 tennis balls and I take about a half a roll of athletic tape and get them pinched together like so. What this is awesome for is getting right up along the vertebrae from basically the base of your rib cage all the way up to the top of your shoulder blades, for getting you to get some mobilization through your thoracic spine. Your thoracic spine basically runs from the top of your shoulder blades down to the bottom of your ribs. And from being seated all day, it will get stuck, especially into flexion. And we want to be able to get pliability, because as we move, especially as we move our arms up overhead, we need that spine to extend as well as flex. If that's not moving, if you take this and place that right along, so your spine is here and this is along your vertebrae, you start at the bottom and then just do some flexion and extension over it and work your way up one level at a time. I always explain it's like working your way up piano keys, and your spine is here and we're trying to get extension and flexion through each one. So use this up and down your thoracic spine. Last but not least is this little baby. This is actually a dowel from an old FMS kit that we would use to stabilize the kit. Obviously, you could go to Home Depot and get any 1-inch PVC by about 8-inch here. And what this is great for, I found, is threading through your hamstrings. Now, early on, I was not a big fan of doing a lot of soft tissue work on the hamstrings until I really started utilizing it more and found how much of a difference it made. So what this is great for is, because you have 3 hamstring muscles, it gets across all 3. And you'll also get a little bit into your adductors as well. Now, if you have a pinpoint spot, you can certainly use a tennis ball or that trigger point ball that I showed you earlier. But if not, if you could sit on just a hard surface like any kind of chair, and you take this and place it across, and I say go right where your backside meets the top of your thigh, and start there. And you just kind of work your way down until you find the most tender spot you have. You may have a couple of them. Once you find that, you're going to give some extension right off of that spot. If you want a little more pressure, flex forward into it. Ease off and come back. So you'll work from up here all the way down to the back of the knee, stopping on anything tender. And generally I'll do anywhere from 15 to 20 extensions to try to get that pin stretch right off of that spot. So there you go. As much as I implore you to invest in yourself, it doesn't mean you have to invest a ton of money. For under 10 bucks, we got all this stuff and you're able to take care of yourself from head to toe.